Hey there, Ruth George with Ruth P. George Law, PLLC. This video is in a series of videos about estate planning and probate matters. As always, these videos are for educational purposes only. They do not establish an attorney-client relationship. Okay, so I have some estate planning clients, potential clients for you to think about. And at the end, I'm going to ask you what they all have in common. So let's say we have a New York married couple whose combined estate exceeds the New York exclusion amount. Don't worry, you don't need to know what that means. Just know that they want to think about some tax and charitable planning. Let's say we have a widow who owns a modest home as her only asset, really, and she's concerned about passing that home along to her children without losing it to pay for her potential nursing home care. Let's say we have a business owner who's concerned about competition swooping in during his life at a time when he may not be able to effectively manage the business as he always has, and then what should happen upon his passing, as he's thinking about his business legacy and wanting to ensure it continues on. And let's say we have a couple who's thinking about how to effectively and beneficially pass along their assets to their children and grandchildren upon the second of them to pass. And let's say we have an individual who wants to share her love of nature by donating land to a land conservancy during her life. Okay, so what do all of these very different estate planning clients have in common? Well, this will bring up the third C in my idea of best estate planning. You know, I've been talking about good, better, best. In the last few videos, I've talked about best and the three C's. So the third C is contribution. Contribution is all about thinking of something bigger than yourself. And contribution is all about who you are, what you've learned, and how you're going to show that as far as the contribution then that you're making within your estate planning matters. And this brings me to my podcast, the Good Life and Legacy podcast, where I'm really hoping to bring to life some of these ideas about knowing who you are, making good decisions, and learning your lessons, and then passing along your legacy. And I've been thinking about Anne Heche, and I brought her up in a prior video. And she's the celebrity who tragically passed away without a will with 2 children. I've been listening to some podcasts and interviews that she did. She did one with Larry King, and Larry King asked her, Anne, what's your greatest fear? And she said that my children will not be happy. And she also talked about how we all need to pay more attention to our children. And I've listened to other interviews where she has gone into her difficult childhood and the trauma that she experienced and the difficulties, including financial difficulties, that her family went through. So she went through a great deal and was able to rise above it. I mean, she learned to become very strong as far as doing what she did and rising above it and having the success that she did. Yet her focus on her children didn't parlay into this idea of contribution with her estate planning matters, which brings me to this point that contribution requires responsibility. There is a level of responsibility that you owe to yourself and to those that you care about and love as far as seeing your estate planning matters through. So I want you to think about your C. What's your contribution? And remember, it requires responsibility and action because you're thinking about the best estate planning. It's really your masterpiece. This has everything to do with who you are, what you've learned, and how you're showing that now in your contribution. So keep going along your spectrum of good, better, best planning. And if you have any questions, please reach out. This is Ruth George with Ruth P. George Law, PLLC, Trust and Estate Attorney. See you on the next video.